It's Ashley from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this 3-tiered Hello Kitty cake. Firstly, I am starting off with one fake tier. The other 2 tiers will be real. To cover a styrofoam tier, it is really simplistic. All you need to do is put a little bit of shortening or water on your styrofoam tier, and then you're going to roll out your fondant and place it on. And I am going to slow down this process later on when I show you how I cover the real cakes. And it's pretty much the exact same thing. I find fake cakes a little bit easier because you can get a sharper edge more easily. Whenever you're mixing fake cakes and real cakes, or if you're just doing all real cake, it is really important to make sure that you have dowels in place. This dowel is going to keep the real tier on properly. Now here, I did cover that cake board in a textured sequin fondant, but I actually end up not liking it, so I take it off later, which is why I don't show you how I did that. But one tip that is still useful that I can give you is that if you are covering your cake board with fondant, make sure that you work on your fondant tier on a different cake board and then move it over. Now to use this new fondant mold that I got, it says that you need to add some Tylose powder to it. So the Tylose powder just dries things a lot more quickly, and it makes the fondant a lot less pliable. Now I tried a few different techniques with this, and I found the best way to do it was just to kind of press the fondant right in and then break off the edges of the fondant. Now I have made this a few different ways where you actually roll out the fondant really thin and then you swirl things around and create your own kind of flower pattern on the side. This creates a much thicker texture, I find, and it also seems a little bit more ethereal. This is a little bit more perfect in texture, so I wouldn't say that one is necessarily better than the other, though of course this is a lot quicker, but both of them kind of produce a little bit of a different look. To adhere all of these fondant pieces on, all I'm doing is I am steaming my cake. I find this is the easiest way to adhere fondant to fondant, though of course if you don't have a steamer, you can use water. The one tricky part about using this mold is it might not fit on your cake exactly, so you will have to cut out certain portions to get that all to fit. As promised, I am going to slow down this portion just a little bit to show you how to cover your cakes with fondant. Now, this particular cake was crumb coated and placed in the fridge overnight. If you are just starting out with covering cakes with fondant, I highly suggest you leave it in the fridge overnight or for at least an hour to make sure that everything is nice and solidified. Then, as you can see, all I am doing is I'm making sure that the ends are not bunching up, and then I'm adhering the fondant to the side of that cake, just with my hands at first, and then we are going to smooth it out afterwards. Cut off all the excess and smooth to your liking. We are going to do the exact same thing with this tier. Now, when you are covering a tier that is quite tall, really make sure that you overshoot just a little bit with how much fondant you're using, because nothing is worse than not having enough fondant. That being said, if you do overshoot too much, like I did, do be sure to cut off the excess fondant as quickly as possible so it doesn't drag down your fondant and create holes. Smooth as much as you would like, but make sure to do it quickly, because as soon as that fondant kind of starts drying out, if you play with this too much, you're going to end up with elephant skin. I like to stack my cakes when they're freshly covered, because then that way I can fix any little imperfections that my hand left behind. Otherwise, I sometimes do get cracking. Now, of course, you can't always stack right away, but if you can, that's the way I prefer to do it. After I've stacked everything, now it's time to cover up all those little messy bits that I've left behind. So I'm just using my little pastry cutter to create these lines. I love using a pastry cutter because you can get even lines, no problem. I apologize for the blurriness here. I am working now on the little bow I'm going to put between that top and middle tier. Bows are one of those things that just look really cool when they're made out of fondant, because you just can't figure out how to do it, or at least I couldn't. But really, it's just a piece of rectangular fondant that is folded to the inside, and then you take one piece and you cover up that middle section so that no messy bits are showing. And I also do a little bit of a double ribbon in the center there. I used to have a lot of trouble adhering bows as well, and making sure that you steam your cake, leave it for a few seconds, I would say about 30 seconds before you actually try to apply things to it. If you try to do it too quickly, then I find things start slipping and sliding down. So that is why I'm applying this little bit of bling wrap in the center while I wait for that to dry slightly, and then I go ahead and I place that bow on. And I like to place all of my fondant details on right away. I don't like to dry things first and then put them on. I just find it so much easier and it looks so much better when I do it right away. Now I'm creating the little 40 at the top. My auntie is turning 40 years old, so this is for her 40th birthday. And I want to do something a little bit more special, so I'm going to add in just a little bit of water and then adhere these sprinkles to it. Once everything is fully dry, then I will dump all of those sprinkles off and it'll be a pretty topper with some sprinkles. Now I'm creating these roses. These are the easiest roses ever. They're like 30-second roses, so fast. If you want to check out a more detailed tutorial on that, you can go ahead and click that video in the right-hand corner. Now, these particular ones do not have lollipops in them. I'm literally just cutting them out, thinning out those edges, and then rolling it up. It is that easy using that cutter. So as you can see, I offset my cake because I wanted to leave room for this Hello Kitty, which is made fully out of Rice Krispie and fondant. So here I am just molding her head, making sure that the head is going to be a little bit bigger than the body because she kind of has a bobble head. Now, one mistake that I used to make when working with Rice Krispie is I would pack this so tight. And you really don't have to. You can be quite gentle with this so that when people bite into it, it still tastes like a delicious Rice Krispie square. You can use a bunch of different mediums here, buttercream, ganache, whatever you have on hand. This is pretty much just to get in between those individual Rice Krispies, so then that way when you put the fondant on, it won't all show through. And it probably helps if you make your fondant a little bit thicker as well. Now, my original vision for this was that the Hello Kitty would sit flush against the second tier. That doesn't quite go the way that I think it's gonna go. So what I should have done was fully cover the front and the back with fondant as well. Unfortunately, I didn't do that, so it made it a little bit harder to cover up the back of that head later on. When putting this figure on, I did make sure to place another dowel into the cake, put the body on, and then the head on. And now I'm adding all of those little details. And with Hello Kitty, it really is all about her nose and eye placement, so do be careful with that. I'm also adding on some edible pearls and a few flowers here and there on this second tier. And a little customer service tip, whenever my customers requested this bling wrap on here, I did let them know that it was inedible just to make sure that that was okay with them. Now let's get into the pricing of this cake. We have a lot of detail going on here. We've got the sugar flowers going on, the bow, the standing 40, and most importantly, we have this fairly sizable Hello Kitty made out of Rice Krispie squares and covered in fondant. Whenever I have fondant details like that, like a character, that tends to up the price. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys.